Would you watch me if I was a worm? You better. Today we're watching a video by Tierzoo. My name is Mistic, and this time it is a worm tier list. I can't remember the last time I saw a worm. That might be concerning. I don't see grass or dirt often, as I'm sure you guys probably don't either. But let's get into the worm tier list. Leech Seed!
The humble worm may be one of the most overlooked characters in the entire
Is
game.
it?
Though they may seem powerless and pathetic,
Yeah,
in reality the
they
worm
do.
faction has access to some of the rarest, most extraordinary special abilities in the game,
Like what?
and can be a nightmare to play against. But which worm builds are
Ooh,
dominating the
I think
meta,
birds
and which
kinda
are
defeat
just
them
bait?
pretty easily.
Find out in the worm tier list. But
Worm.
before we dive into the rankings, what even is a worm? Even though they're the most numerous
blob.
creatures in the game, technically there's no such thing as a single all-encompassing worm faction.
Okay.
Worm builds are actually part of several different, distantly related factions.
Really?
But there are many similarities they share. All
Are
worms
worms
have long,
bugs?
tube-shaped character models with minimal or non-existent appendages, enabling them to weave in and out of tight spaces easily.
Okay.
Simple as it may be, this has proven to be one of the most reliable body plans in the history of the game, as worms have been in the game since pretty much patch 1.0. As far as base stats go, worms are not particularly stacked. Now, credit
They
where it's
do
due,
not
because
have
of their
much
excellent
health.
regenerative perks and uniquely advanced
Yeah.
burrowing abilities, they do
You
score
just
pretty high in
smush
both
'em.
vitality and stealth. And there are exceptions that score high in other stats as
Ooh.
well. But in general, they have below average base stats in almost every skill.
Definitely.
With simple brains, no weapons, no armor, and no
Ooh.
legs, the average worm is pretty lacking in their intelligence, power, defense, and mobility stats. The
Yeah,
exceptions are where it
that-
gets interesting,
do they have
though.
eyes?
So without further ado, let's dig into the tier list.
Ice
First
worm.
in F tier, the Ice Worm. This build takes the burrowing capabilities of the worm in an unconventional direction
basically a
and opts to
parasite.
dig through glaciers rather than solid earth. This is a pretty unique gimmick as it grants them completely uncontested access to glacial algae as a food source. But unfortunately, it seems like unlocking the ability to burrow through ice must have cost all their evolution points, because the Ice Worm has some pretty glaring flaws in its strategy.
Dumb.
First, the Ice Worm's stealth stat is abysmal.
Right.
Its jet black appearance offers zero camouflage
Very,
against
very,
the
very
icy white
obvious.
surroundings, making them extremely easy for birds to spot from above and pick off.
Right.
A few extra points into snow camouflage would go a long way here. And the second flaw, ice worms ironically have almost zero freezing resistance or heat resistance.
How?
They die immediately if temperatures drop below freezing, and melt if temperatures rise to even a few degrees above freezing. Luckily,
How do
due
they
to a quirk of the
survive?
game's physics engine, the temperature of glacial ice is fairly stable at their exact Goldilocks zone. But as we've seen lately, relying on
they just
glaciers as a
maxed out
stable habitat
that
is
few
quite the
Tim.
gamble. It wouldn't take too much to make this build completely broken, but for now, it's the lowest ranked worm on this list. Also in F tier, we have the Earthworm. Yes, it's true.
I
The
like the
archetypal
Earthworm.
worm everyone knows and loves is a low tier. Earthworms have terrible stats. It has no offensive moves, no armor, and isn't quick enough to rely on speed to escape
But it's
attacks. What's
iconic.
worse, even the one special ability Earthworms are believed to have is a bit overrated.
What is it?
Earthworms, like most worms, can regenerate from damage and potentially even survive grievous wounds, if they manage to get away. But that's a big if. Most builds that spec into high passive health regen also tend to spec into
Why is the
autonomy
fog
perk
just
as well.
doing that?
This perk allows the user's appendages to break off if
The
grabbed,
spider.
allowing them to escape a grappling attack. This is a costly ability and one that I normally don't speak very highly of, but situationally it can be extremely clutch. Earthworms do not have this perk, and so when attacked, they often cannot do anything except tank the damage and try to burrow away. If that doesn't work, they're completely out
I
of
like
options.
snakes. Ugh.
In D tier, we have the Leech.
I thankfully
As the
never
literal namesake
encountered
for the term
one.
used to describe deliberately being
Have I?
carried by the rest of your team, I actually think
Oh,
leeches are
okay.
done a bit dirty. Yes, many leech players do fit the description, attacking a player in a higher weight class.
I know leeches. Are they supposed to be able to help you? Or is that a different thing I'm thinking of? I know cockroaches technically clean stuff. I still don't. I don't want to be near a cockroach. Leeches used to be used for like health benefits or supposed health benefits. I don't. Medical stuff back then was very just cut off an arm for no reason kind of thing. But maybe leeches are somewhat helpful. I wouldn't trust them. I don't think I've ever encountered one in my years of playing the game, but I don't really go in rivers that much to encounter them.
Class and just coasting off the free
I
XP.
suppose.
But there are plenty of leech players who play an honest, active hunting strategy and have to fight to survive, same as any other predatory build. Like most other aquatic builds, they thrive off of their
Frog.
strong matchup against low tiers like frogs, and spawn camp them mercilessly.
Just
Leeches
don't
share the
spawn
same
cap
garbage base
bats.
stats as most other worms though, and with lackluster defenses and mobility, they still get one-shot by fish, birds, and snakes all the time.
Right.
Frankly, the parasite strategy might actually be the less viable of the two, as leeches are not well protected at all when attached to a host, and can easily get picked off by perceptive players.
Right.
In
Horsehair
C tier,
worm.
we have the horsehair worm.
Is that a parasite?
This nematode takes the burrowing proficiency of the worm faction and uses it for an unorthodox purpose, burrowing into flesh. Horsehair worm players opt for the parasitoid game plan, infecting their hosts when they drink from contaminated
Is
water.
that the one that can go up like your pee and can go like in your dick? Or was that fake? Was that not a real thing? I feel like I've heard of something that can like go in like go up the stream and go into your hole. Is that real? I hope not. I really hope not.
It then uses its burrowing ability to pierce the digestive tract and hide out in the insect's circulatory system, leeching XP from it as it continues its playthrough relatively unimpeded. But once the worm reaches its max level, it activates its special ability, Mind Control, to change the insect's
Mind
quest objective
control.
marker to the nearest
What
body
is
of water.
this, hentai?
Once the insect player self-destructs, the worm burrows out of its body and continues with the rest of its playthrough.
Ooh.
This strategy is incredibly effective and requires very little technical skill, as once you successfully infect a host, you can farm XP entirely AFK.
Ew.
Mind Control is one of the most powerful abilities in the game, and it's shocking the devs gave it to a random worm build.
Yeah, it
Still,
is.
as with any parasitoid playstyle, the main downside is that your survival is tied to that of your host, so if you pick a scrub, you might get one-shot when they accidentally wander too close to a spider's den. And this isn't just a hypothetical. In fact, in some servers, the fish player base is literally reliant on janitoring the self-destructing players.
Really?
Still, at least by being an internal parasite, they don't run the risk of being picked off like the leech does.
Fireworm.
In
What the
B
fuck
tier,
is
we
that?
have the fireworm, a marine build with excellent defensive stats.
That looks so
Fireworms
cool.
have toxic spines, which inflict serious damage on any player dumb enough to attack them. This
That's
effect
a
is powerful
worm?
enough that even large tank builds cannot
looks
just
like a-
eat the
like a
damage and will
slug.
learn quickly not to mess with them. Unfortunately for fireworm mains, because their spikes are small and fragile, they cannot pierce thick chitin or keratin armor. This means any player with a thick exoskeleton can completely negate the fireworm's defense and crush them like they would any other worm.
Right.
Some fish mains have also spec'd into the beak attribute in order to be able to do the same thing. Parrotfish and pufferfish are a huge problem for builds that rely on defensive abilities, as their powerful beaks can crush armor and don't take damage from poison spikes.
Right.
So, fireworms are untouchable to a lot of players,
They
but there's
look
enough
like
counterplay prevalent in the
slugs
meta right now that I
and
can't give them a
worm.
high tier rank.
Giant
Also in
tube
B tier,
worm.
we have the tube worm. Of all the lazy AFK XP farming builds in the game, there isn't a single one that goes to as extreme of lengths to do so as the tube worm.
I don't
The
know
tube
why
worm
you
has
would
crazy
pick
high toxic
a
damage
AFK
resistance,
build.
not because it needs to tank venom damage, not because it preys upon builds that use poison for defense.
It just seems
No,
kinda
the tube
boring.
worm needs toxic damage resistance because its strategy is to set up shop next to deep sea hydrothermal vents and basically eat the sulfur jetting out from them. It
Oh,
absorbs hydrogen sulfide using its plume, and because of a special team-up ability they have with bacteria, they're actually able to use that as an XP source, meaning they don't even need to really eat at all. They don't need to find food, they just constantly absorb the noxious sulfur spewing out of these vents. Because the sulfide turns water around these vents toxic, the tube worm doesn't have to worry about attacks from predators. They
Right.
do, however, have to worry about the vents shutting down. Hydrothermal vents do not last forever, and
They
when they
don't?
go dark or erupt into lava flows, it's GG
I've
for
honestly
entire
never heard of
colonies of
those.
tube worms. An incredibly effective XP farming technique, but like a lot of these types of strats, it works until it doesn't.
Yeah, until the death nerf it.
In A tier, we
Velvet.
have the Velvet Worm. This
Ooh.
build has even worse defensive stats than the other worms,
Really?
as it doesn't have the same slime coating that the others do. However, it makes up for it by converting that slime ability into one of the most unique abilities in the game, a projectile attack. The Velvet Worm can fire a glue-like
Ew.
slime from its papillae.
Why
This slime
is
attack
it
deals no
spraying?
damage. It's not toxic and doesn't hit with near enough force to be threatening on its own. However, the slime
what's
is
the
sticky
point?
and hardens quickly, debuffing the target's speed stat and potentially
So
even
it is
completely
just
immobilizing
basically
it.
glue.
This slime is extremely strong
It's
once
like hot
hardened,
glue.
similar to spider silk in terms of what it's capable of immobilizing.
Right.
Even builds with vastly higher power stats are not safe from being essentially frozen by the Velvet Worm's attacks. Now,
Okay.
while this is no doubt a powerful ability, it has plenty of limitations. It is woefully inaccurate and will
Yeah.
struggle to hit smaller or evasive targets consistently. It is also relatively short-ranged, only being able to hit targets a few body lengths away. And because it doesn't deal any direct damage, even if the Velvet Worm manages to pin down a build like the Centipede or Scorpion, it'll still be taking on considerable counterattack risk when it tries to approach.
Bobbit worm.
And last in A tier, we have the Bobbit Worm. This build is easily one of the most terrifying things, not just in the Worm
Yeah.
faction, but in the
I've
entire
heard of
game.
these
The
things.
Bobbit Worm is a mid-sized benthic worm build which can burrow up to 10 feet deep into the ocean floor.
10
However,
feet?
unlike most burrowing worm builds,
It's like
the Bobbit
double
Worm
my
is not a scavenger.
height.
It's not burrowing to look for food scraps or to escape predators. No, the Bobbit Worm is an ambush build. It lies in wait, and as soon as another predator wanders close enough to its burrow, it strikes, using what may genuinely be the most wicked pair of mandibles in the entire game. These powerful jaws inflict devastating damage, while simultaneously hooking into their target so that it can be dragged down below the ocean floor, never to be seen again. Now, despite their ferocity,
that's like
I don't
a-
want to overhype the Bobbit Worm.
Or
Though they are menacing, skilled players can play around their
Yeah.
threat range pretty easily. Their low perception stats make them pretty inaccurate when lunging towards their targets. Their attacks are deceptively slow, and as long as you position
Really?
yourself even slightly above the seabed, they should be reactable and easily dodged. Skilled fish players have even been known to drive Bobbit Worm players out of their territory by teaming up and mobbing their burrows. This requires a successful perception check with a pretty high DC, but if your party is competent enough, you really shouldn't have to worry about Bobbit Worms that much. Despite being easily the most terrifying build on this list,
it looks
the Bobbit Worm's poor
horrifying.
frame data and predictable game plan keeps it out of the higher tiers.
Right.
And in
Hammerhead.
S tier,
Floor-
we have the Hammerhead Flatworm. Flatworms are the
Flatworm.
solo hunters of the worm faction, and the Hammerhead Flatworm is one of the best at it. They're faster than other worms, which isn't saying a lot, but still, it's relevant. They possess a devastatingly powerful neurotoxic slime,
do
the
so
same
many
toxin found in
animals
pufferfish
have
and blue-ringed
hammerheads?
octopus, which they employ both offensively
So
and
many. I've only
defensively.
seen two. This
But the
one,
most
the
recognizable feature, their wide, flat head,
Mhm.
was a bit of a gamble in terms of how they spent their evolution points. By speccing into the Hammerhead attribute, these flatworms sacrificed their ability to dig efficiently.
Really?
But in doing so,
I thought that
they
would make
greatly
it better.
boosted their
'cause
perception
it's like a
stat.
shovel.
Similar to the Hammerhead shark, the flatworm's hammerhead is loaded with chemoreceptors,
Huh?
enabling the worm to track down prey by following its scent.
Oh.
In addition to their toxic defense, flatworms are the best regenerators in the game, able to heal all the way back to full health, even when cut into tiny pieces. They can really
Nice.
only be permanently defeated by non-physical damage, such as
Infinite
dehydration, salt, acid,
application
that sort of thing.
glitch.
Because it's borderline unkillable through conventional combat, the Hammerhead Flatworm is the only worm build to achieve the rank of S tier.
Nice.
The Hammerhead Flatworm's excellent tracking abilities ensure that even without eyes, it knows exactly where
Okay,
it's going.
so worms
And
don't
even
have
though
eyes.
I do have eyes, to be totally honest, sometimes I still get lost while exploring the internet.
Same.
Or at least I used to, until I started using today's sponsor, Opera.
Yep.
Opera is my new main for the internet meta, as it's stacked with tons of powerful abilities other browsers wish they had. Here are some of my favorite ones. For keeping myself productive and avoiding getting sidetracked, I
Okay. If you wanna use that, check out his video down below. Um, which worm was your favorite on the list? I really like the fireworm. It looks super cool. If you made it this far, comment down bat worm. Yeah. Okay. Until next time. Goodbye.